Hello, my name is Rezo and welcome. I'm making this video to explain my first impressions of patch 8.2 after the release of the Eternal Palace. Now, I'm gonna tell you all about what I did the first day of the new patch. The reason why I'm doing this is that I think it's important, and it's become even more important to vocalize your opinion about the game, because if you don't, the game isn't gonna change for the better. Now, that being said, this isn't a particularly negative video. It's actually quite positive. I quite like the new patch, and one of the reasons why I like it is that I joined a new guild because I didn't like the guild that I was in. I didn't like the guild I was in before I was in my previous guild. Mainly because they made me play something I didn't want to play. Now, why is that important for what I'm about to tell you? Well, it's because I joined a completely newly formed guild, and I cannot recommend this to new players at all. Because it's gonna take a long time before you actually get any decent progress. So if you're inexperienced, you're not gonna be able to help increase the speed at which the guild is growing, how fast it's gonna progress through heroic or mythic or whatever your goal is. But that is not what this video is about. This video is about 8.2. So, two of my friends who are in the guild, real life friends, we decided to do our normal, do a normal run with the guild. And before we did that, we did our islands, like a weekly island to get our cap on AP. And that took about 20 minutes. The reason why we wanted to do this is because we know that most people in this guild aren't the best, and therefore we wanted to not slow down the guild even further by not being prepared. And that went fairly quickly. It took 20 minutes to get through 3 mythic islands. Then we had time to do our dailies, our emissaries, and then we started the normal run at 10. And at that moment, I realized how much work had to go into making this guild work. But I'm not saying that the players of that day were actually better than I expected them to be, at least a big majority of the guild. But it needed work. It really did need work. But again, that's not about 8.2. Let's get right into the raid. We progressed through normal at a fair pace, seeing as we haven't really played a lot together. Commander Shivara was a fairly simple boss, so we one-shot her as most of the bosses. Although I was asked to heal. Yeah. So the dream went down the toilet. You might remember I said that I wanted to play Shadow Priest instead of Discipline or Holy. So that was kind of a setback, but I really didn't mind. Like, it's just for normal. It's fine. Blackwater Behemoth was also a fairly simple boss, although I did find it a bit tedious with how the mechanic of not being able to heal unless you kill a pufferfish works. I would rather we had to kill it to get a buff so we wouldn't get one-shot by things. I think that's a fair critique of the encounter on a completely like meta level. But it was fine, completely fine. I wouldn't change it because that's only my opinion. I know that a lot of the people in my guild wouldn't like that. I talked a bit about it with a few of them. So I kind of saw some different point of views. Then we went to Radiance of Azshara. Radiance of Azshara was a bit tougher than both Commander Shivara and Blackwater Behemoth, but it was a one-shot nonetheless. It was a very movement heavy fight, and that's the kind of fight I struggled the most with as a healer on a personal level. I'm not very good with looking where I'm going when I'm healing. I'm more concentrated on healing. Although I do mostly like find out how the pattern works, so I didn't find it too bothersome. Moving on then to Lady Esvane. Lady Esvane quickly became the most interesting boss so far to me, as the premise of a boss fight that gets tougher to kill the longer you fight it. It kind of intrigues me, as it is mostly dependent on how your raid is playing the encounter. Not that I mean that you can do it in multiple different ways, but if you have low DPS, the boss is also like going to be exponentially longer, because the fact that if you don't have DPS to kill the boss in the first, no, not the first, but the second phase 2, then you're gonna have a third phase 1 and a third phase 2, which is just gonna be even longer, because he has a shield that gets, what was it, about 100% larger or something like that each time she gets a new bubble after each phase 2. And I kind of like that, because then you can like work with, when do you want a Bloodlust or Hero or Time Warp or whatever. If you're Alliance, it's called Heroism. If it's Horde, it's called Bloodlust, but most people know that. Never mind that. And when you want to figure out how to do this for your guild, how that works out for your guild the best, that's kind of what I like. That you don't have to do it like everybody else, that you can find your own way, and then just see how it's gonna play out. Then to probably my favorite boss in the raid so far, Orgosa. He was the first boss in the raid to Vipers. He was the first thing in the raid to Vipers, but that's only due to the tanks messing up like we all do sometimes. And the boss has a one-shot mechanic of where if the tanks don't swap before one of the tanks reaches 10 stacks of a debuff that is applied to the tanks, to whatever tank is tanking the boss, they just get one shot. And I really think it's a fun fight with moments of high movement, moments of with ads you have to just nuke the hell out of. And the only complaint, or rather the only thing I dislike about the encounter in any way, shape or form, is the fact that you have to run down a platform. I didn't enjoy the platform on G'huun. I'm not gonna enjoy this one. But again, it was a fairly fun fight. I don't really have anything to say against it, except for the platform. The Queen's Court was like a mediocre thing, like experience for me. I thought it was a bit uneventful, and it felt like a wet noodle, essentially. But I'm definitely gonna like look forward to it on Mythic. Like I think that fight is gonna be really fun on Mythic for me. And then we have Sakul, the penultimate boss of the entire raid. And he's one of those few bosses I'm never gonna get. I'm never gonna understand the mechanics, because it has one of those realm mechanics, sort of, because it puts you into the fear realm and the delirium realm, and then there's the normal realm, and I just don't understand it. Maybe I'm the idiot, but I've just never liked those mechanics, and Sakul feels like the boss where Blizzard just wanted to flex that mechanic, just really go like a bodybuilder and just flex that mechanic essentially. And then we come to Queen Azshara. Queen Azshara is a messy fight if you don't know what's going on, and if you forget to soak, or rather, like, I don't know what to call it, but I'm calling it a soak. You're gonna fail the fight pretty quickly after phase 1. And then there's the entire mechanic with spears in phase 3 or 4, I don't remember, where there's one ad, the Myrmidon, who throws a spear at a random player, and he has to either target a different ad who has a shield, or throw it out of the boss room. Otherwise, everyone's gonna take a massive load of damage and probably gonna wipe the raid. But I still think Queen Azshara was a fantastic fight. I really like the thematic feeling you get when you enter her room, when you see that cutscene. But then again, she's the final boss, and on normal you're not gonna get much of an experience on it. I'm really looking forward to seeing her on heroic or even mythic even. And I'm definitely gonna think of her like a Kil'jaeden and Uncle Dan level fight. So or somewhere in between. I don't think she's gonna take 600 pulls to kill. Although I think she's gonna take more than 300 or something. Like I think she's gonna be a boss that's gonna be in between. For method and limit and pieces, all those kind of guilds that are in the world first runnings. But still, so like, what did I get out of doing this? What did I get out of doing the Eternal Palace? And I always like to compare the Eternal Palace to my favorite raid, or rather my favorite raid in a while, and that's Hellfire Citadel. Most people don't like Hellfire Citadel all that much. But that's mainly because that's mainly because we all had it. We had a HFC for about a year and 2 months or something like that, and that made the raid feel a bit more negative, a bit more heavy, I think. But it was a really good raid. And the reason why that is, why I think that is, it was a challenge, really. It was a challenge to get through all those bosses, and I feel like the Eternal Palace is gonna bring forth that same challenge. And another raid I would like to compare it to is actually Nighthold, because I get the same feeling. Like, Nighthold for me was a really good challenge, a really good introduction to the fights on normal, a big step or a step up to heroic, not a too big a step, but still a bit better than, still a bit tougher to kill than normal. And then there's Mythic. Like, I think Mythic is gonna be really fun to, like, even from Lady Esvane. I think the first 3 bosses are gonna be jokes compared to Lady Esvane, to be honest. And I haven't done any testing or anything, so I only know the normal and heroic fights. So I'm really looking forward to Mythic progress this tier, and that's what I would like to see, a challenge in Mythic. Like, I want to have 40 pulls on Lady Esvane and Mythic, and I want to have 55 pulls on the Queen's Court, and on and on and on. I really think that this is going to be a really good raid. I think this tier is going to be fun. The only thing I don't like about this tier is the new Mythic Plus FX, Beguiling. I hate it. Those 3 ads, I hate them. Or rather, I dislike them, since I'm going to be fairly unpopular if I say I hate something, but I dislike the new ethics. But still, like, it's gonna be a challenge. And besides, it's not as bad as Infested from Uldir. So, guys and gals, I just wanna say, have fun at the new raid. I had fun on my first run, I had fun on my first heroic run, and I definitely feel like this is gonna be a good tier. just comment on what you think is the best thing about the new tier, and just have fun, everyone. Goodbye.